My name's Molly Googler.
Hi,
I'm
Molly.
the college archivist here, and I am very thrilled today to be interviewing Marilyn Yetter. I know this is a very special day. It's Marilyn's last day here, so she's probably feeling all sorts of emotions as we go through this interview. But Marilyn, I really do appreciate you taking time to be here to do this today.
No problem, and I'm extremely honored, so thank you, Molly, for asking.
Well, you're welcome. Could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up working at Yavapai College?
Yes, actually, I was married to my husband back in 1968, and shortly after that we had two children, two boys, and at that point we lived and went to college in Ohio. And from there, prior to having the children, we both worked. I worked for a short period of time, but my husband worked for Standard Oil of Ohio. And with that particular job, he had an opportunity to go to Alaska.
Wow.
And so they asked him to go to Alaska and set up the payroll system for the Trans-Alaska Pipeline Service Company. And so he was on loan to Alyeska Pipeline Service Company at that time for 3 years. So here we were, two little boys. We're traipsing up to Alaska, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. Alaska, Anchorage area was a wonderful place to raise the boys. Our experiences there were fantastic. I got involved in the elementary school as the children went through school there, joined the PTA, and at that point also took me to the state PTA level and got involved with the legislature with the grant process they had going on there. And as the boys got older, I kind of followed them in education. I worked in the middle school education piece there. Never did high school, but I did volunteer in the high school. So we lived there for 18 years. At that point, the boys were grown. They were leaving to go to college in different states. Actually, our oldest boy went to ASU, and our youngest boy went to UW. So we followed our youngest boy down to Washington because we were tired of the long winters, the dark nights, the long, not enough sunshine. So we thought Washington was our next destination. So my husband actually retired from Alyeska, and he had about 5 years also with the Alaska Railroad there while we were in Alaska. So we retired and went to Washington, bought 5 acres, lived on Camano Island, which is north of Seattle area, and I'd gotten a job with administration at that point in Everett School District, and that's when I started my administrative kind of career status in a sense, but always an administrative assistant capacity, and but in different departments of administration, anything from human resources to student services, things like that. But my husband stayed retired, and he maintained our property, and we got to visit our youngest son quite a bit, and of course we traveled occasionally to Arizona and enjoyed the nice warm weather to see our oldest boy. But then our oldest boy, unfortunately, was involved in a vehicular accident and was killed.
Sorry.
Thank you. But at that point, I continued to work. And so we lived in Washington for 7 years. And that 7th year that we had, as I was telling you earlier, Molly, that we had gotten together, whereas that winter, there was 120 straight days of rain. Well, you know, in Washington, the skies are gray and the lots of rain in Washington. And my husband, being retired, found it very difficult to cope with the lack of sunshine per se. So he says, we're out of here, you know. And when we used to visit our oldest boy in Arizona, we'd always come to Prescott. We'd travel around to Tucson and Phoenix area and Scottsdale, but we always ended up in Prescott just to visit it. So we decided that we were actually going to move and retire in Prescott. Well, we did. And the retirement for me was a short one. I volunteered for a little bit of time and just was not fulfilling enough for me at that point in time. So I got a part-time job with the Highland Center and worked with the students with outdoor education, which was very educational. It was basically out of my realm. I've never done anything like that before. So I've always been in an office atmosphere. But it was very, it's like using your right brain in a sense. You know, you get to really feel what the leaves look, with the texture of the leaves, and you learn all about the trees and the junipers and things that you wouldn't feel or learn in the educational realm. So it was great. So I was able to actually take a couple classes, teach the students, and those students are actually from our elementary, our middle schools, okay, and they have field trips and lessons from the Highland Center, and they learn about nature, and it was a great experience for me. At that point, decided part-time just wasn't enough for me, so I decided to go full-time. There was an opening here at Yavapai College, and it was with working with Bob Salmon, who at that point was the provost of the college. So back in 2002, Bob Salmon actually hired me. So that's what brought me to Yavapai College.
Were you the administrative assistant to him?
Yes.
Was that your position?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was.
Well, great. So, well, obviously you moved from that position to the president's office. How long did you work in your first position here, and what other positions have you held?
I worked with Bob Salmon, I would say probably, and this is just approximate because I didn't, I would say probably about 2 to 3 years, okay? I would say, if you follow the history of the college, around 2004, 2005, we had a huge turnover of administrators. And Bob was one of those administrators based on the no competence vote that was given to the president at that time. And when he decided to leave the college, then the college actually had an interim person by the name of Paul Kessel, who was the dean of the Verde Valley campus. He kind of oversaw both positions as far as academics and instruction, so he kind of took over Bob's position at the same time still holding down his position at the Verde. And the team that Bob Salmon had established within the instructional area, academic area, functioned very well. So Paul didn't have a huge role to play on the Prescott side. Actually, Barb Wing was in that. She worked under Bob Salmon. You had Annie Goodell, you had Linda Hoffman. So you had a lot of Jenny Johnson, a lot of experienced ladies that knew what they were doing based on accreditation and curriculum and things like that. So the department, even though we did have Paul to oversee the supervision of it, maintained all of its responsibilities without a direct report at that point. But that only lasted a short period of time. I would say probably a year later, Dr. Utpal Goswami was hired. He was the provost of the college at that point. And that was a hire that took place under Dr. Horton's direction. And as you know, I think he only worked for the college about 2 or 3 years, but I worked for Dr. Goswami at that point. And that was a short stint, again based on academics, instruction. Dr. Goswami had taken another position in another college. I believe he's in California right at this present time as president of Redmond College, but I'm not positive about that. At that point, when Dr. Goswami had actually gone to another position, to another college, I was asked to come over to the Building 32, where the president was housed, and become the office manager. And when Dr. Horton asked that of me, it was so funny because I didn't know what my role was. I didn't know what his thoughts were. It was all a request basically from him that he knew what he wanted to do, but I didn't know what he wanted to do. So he moved me into Building 32 to become the office manager. And so I was given special projects at that time. And eventually then he hired me as his executive assistant to him and to the board. So
Wow.
quite a journey.
Yeah, lots of leadership that you worked under.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So with your current position, how long have you been in that position? Administrative executive? Assistant to
the president and the board. I would say a little bit between 5.5 to 6 years.
Wow, that's a significant amount of time.
Right.
So what kinds of responsibilities do you have in that position?
Well, a lot of the responsibilities in my mind are based on, and I don't want this to sound like I say it, but to allow the president to look good, to be able to represent the president in a professional manner, offering the best job you possibly can, the best customer service you possibly can, and being out in the community, always knowing that no matter if you are a wife or a mother, if you are hired by the college, you are still representing the college, and the people look at you like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you always have to have your best behavior on, but you want to always represent the college in a proud manner and to be very proud of it. And so the responsibilities are huge, okay? Everything from assisting, keeping the calendar, all the phone calls, accommodating the student concerns, things like that. The realm is like 360. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you think you should do to assist someone in a president's role, that's what it is. But what I've always looked at is it's not sitting at a desk and getting the work done, but it's the relationships you build, not only in the college, but also in the community. I remember the assistant that I actually took the position from at that point. She was known to do a lot of work right in the office area, didn't get out much because she was extremely busy, and the work responsibility is extremely busy in the president's office, okay? But in order to build those relationships within the college, you've got to make the time to get out and get involved with not only the college but also the community, because your role, I believe, as executive assistant to the president helps her or him
Mm-hmm.
to do a better job as president.
Well, what you just said also on your interpretation of what the job is, just how you expressed yourself, lets me know that you care very much about the college.
Oh.
I mean, not only the president, obviously, but also what, can't think of the word I want to say, what presence, what face does the college reflect to the community at large? And you obviously took that to heart, and that was what I'm hearing from you, is that was a driving force for you. You cared about how the college appeared to the community.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, you replicated what I said tremendously. And I mentioned to you earlier that, leadership can come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership can direct and lead in different manners. No problem there. But it's the people within the college that make the difference. The people the instructors that teach those students, that realize that students are the key individuals that make this college.
Mm-hmm.
It's the facility folks that make the grounds beautiful, that make the community proud of having Yavapai College here. And it's important for, I believe, every individual in the college to realize that they're important and they're part of this whole college. And it makes it what it is today because of you, because of Mike, because of anybody in facilities. It doesn't make any difference to me what the job is. It's the individual that takes the pride in that job in order to make it work.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, because that's been my observation over the years also, that I feel like one of the real strengths of the college is that the individuals who work here, no matter what their position is, they care about the students. And what can we do to help them be more successful?
Right.
And so I always felt like I really appreciated being a part of something that was much bigger than me, and that what we're doing here is we're changing people's lives.
That's right.
What more could you ask for?
Not
in
a thing
job,
more.
You know?
And there's so many times that you could say something and you have no idea what you said, but it makes a difference in somebody's life. And you might that person might come back to you 2 or 3 years later and say, or never come back to you and tell you what a difference you made. So I think if your heart's in the right place and you're doing things for the right reason, that's the best you can do to make an influence on anybody's life.
So besides working so closely with the president and the president's concerns and the community's concerns about the college in relationship to the president, you had some other responsibilities too, didn't you?
Well, some of the responsibilities I took on in my own realm, okay, and what I mean by that is getting involved with the college in the sense of putting on holiday potlucks, or getting involved with FFA. Chino Valley every year has an interview job experience for high school students, and I would take the lead on that and get involved, again, working with students. Sometimes what I used to do also is teach true colors to our residence hall students, so that they could understand why they think like they think or why they act like they act. Small groups, but sometimes the small groups create a great deal of dialogue, so that's a great deal of I should say enjoyment, in a sense, to be able to do that and to be asked to do that. Also took the opportunity to get involved with employee recognition, took the lead on that in a couple instances. Now Rose Hurley is taking the lead on that. Employee Day, just overseeing, making sure everything, the logistic piece. I guess I like putting things together, so I'm more the logistical person than I am up front with a microphone presenting, things like that. I'll let the president and the administration handle that, but making sure that everything comes together to make it right. And you talked about, or one of your questions, Molly, is talk about detail, being detailed and organizing a lot of things. And I guess I've been blessed by that through my experience and example I've been given through my husband as well as my mom. And being detailed oriented and organized, I think, has really gotten me a lot to where I am today. It's not just important to make a list, and that's how I keep track of my things, because I never rely on my memory anymore. But it's also being able to follow up with people. You and I can have a conversation, and somebody will say to me, I'm going to send you an email and ask you if you could provide something for me, okay? The person forgets to send an email. I believe that person talked to me in the capacity of as an executive assistant to the president. They wanted something from the college, some information. It's my responsibility to follow up whether or not he or she did or not. And I just think that represents the college and making sure that every piece of information that is requested is followed up on, just so they think that we didn't drop the ball. So it's making sure that we all follow through in order to, again, make sure that the president and the administration looks good. Because it's the taxpayers, it's the community that, and tuition, the students' tuition, that pay for this college for the most part, because we've been cut so badly in state funding. And so we know who our owners are. And we can't always give our owners what they want. But it's important for the owners to realize that when we listen to them, we follow through and give them their request. So as far as other responsibilities, I think a lot of it is, it's what Dr. Wills asks. It's probably my desires on how I feel as a professional to represent the college, so I get involved. Every day is a new day, because you can start with a plan when you have responsibilities, and you can end up at the end of the day not having checked anything off, because a student might have called with a concern, a parent might have called with a concern, a board member might have called with a concern. So just things like that. The day happens, but it's a new day, and every day is a new day. So and every day is different, and it's just great working for the president.
Well, that's awesome. I think you're going to be a very tough act to follow, Marilyn. I don't know who is going to replace you. I think I'm going to send them your interview.
Oh, gee.
So they can listen to see how you managed your day-to-day operations and what your basic philosophy has been.
Well, Karen Jones, who is the coordinator for the president's job, or for the president's office, I should say, has been hired as the executive assistant for the president's office. She's very skilled. She's very good at what she does. So I am thrilled that she got the position. And the hardest part she has is the fact that I've always talked with her about it many, many times, and I'm not good at it, is balance. There needs to be a balance in your life. I realize that I have been blessed, or not blessed, however people want to look at it, with a high energy level, okay? And that is a tough act to follow, because not everybody has that high energy level, or that desire for competition, or that desire for achievement, okay? But she's got the skills, but I just encourage her, because she has a young family, for balance. There's only so many hours in the day for the job, but family comes first. So with our boys being grown, that was not a concern, and my husband's been very supportive. So.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm curious. What have you had any responsibilities with the governing board?
I have, and the governing board is a fabulous group of individuals that I believe, from the community perspective, or even from a college employee's perspective, may not understand the board. And what I mean by that is, it's a 5-member board, and that's according to state statute. There'll always be a 5-member board unless they change the Arizona statutes. They are elected officials. They're not paid. So they have their job, they have their families, they have other commitments, but they choose to be elected and volunteer. They all, I believe, in their hearts, believe in education, and that's why they are on the board. They are oriented, when they become a board member, that they speak as one voice. They can have different opinions when they discuss an issue at a board meeting. Once they decide on that issue, they need to support each other on that issue, whether it was not the direction they wanted to go or not. And I believe they are doing what they are doing for the next generation of students. They believe in the fact that our next generation depends on the student and the education that we offer them here at Yavapai College. And that's why they run. I believe that there is no egos involved, or they're doing it for status, because there's no pay, there's no, what I see, recognition, okay? And I also believe that back in, I want to say 2002, there was turmoil in the board based on the fact of the turmoil of the presidency. With that, the board had adopted what they call policy governance. Policy governance is a way in which they have a very clear distinction between what is operational and what is board responsibility. The board responsibility are basically 2 to 3 things. Hire a president, approve the budget, and not get involved in operationals. Okay, that's very hard because they're interested in the students. They're interested in what goes on in the college, okay? Mm-hmm. But they know that they can't get down to the nitty-gritty. But they do still have to be responsible to our taxpayers. So it's a very hard job. The other thing too is open meeting law. Open meeting law is very hard for any board because they cannot talk amongst each other or email each other on any subject, on any day, period. They can only talk amongst each other when they're in a board meeting setting. If 3 board members email each other or call each other, that could be a quorum and they've broken the open meeting law, which means that the Attorney General, if anybody reports them, the board members could be fined. And that's what happened in 2000, I want to say 2 or 3, I don't know the exact year, I'd have to go back and reference, okay? So, with that policy adoption and having an attorney present at our board meetings, okay, has really kept the board on track. The president now is delegated an awful lot of responsibilities by the board members to fulfill. And she does that by, the board only directs. If they want something done, they can only direct the president. They cannot direct a staff member. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of legalities when you deal with the board, okay? But they're genuine people and they really care. And I believe that a lot of people don't understand policy governance. It is a difficult model in which to run a board and to run a board meeting. Mm-hmm. However, with that, it keeps them in line so that they wouldn't be in a situation where as they get too involved with the operation of the college and with our attorney present, they always can be in line with the open meeting regulations.
Now, it's been my observation over the years that you have had interactions with the board because of your position. Is that true?
That's true. According to one of their executive limitations, they basically can only communicate, for the most part, to me or to, I should say, to the position, executive assistant, or to the president. Okay, and normally what it does in line of distinction is that they would contact the president, and then she could direct me, or if she's not available, then they would just give me a call. Okay, so they're really, because of past experience with the board, they're really aware of open meeting law, and by no means do they ever want to get caught at breaking that. So I'm kind of like the messenger. Mm-hmm. They call me, and either I make it happen, or I contact the next board member or the next the president, and let her or him know of the request. Let me give you an example. A board member wants to put a topic on the agenda, and that board member typically will call the president or myself and say, hey, I'd like to have this agenda placed on, or this topic placed on the agenda. From there, we would call the board chair and say, this has been the request, okay, do you have any concerns with it, nay or yay, and we'll just go from there. So it's I play the role of the kind of, like I say, the vehicle or the messenger in order so that it protects the board. And we always want to protect the board. Karen and I, both in our positions that we currently hold, because we know they are volunteers and they do have a lot of responsibilities with their work, okay, we make it happen. We make it, actually sometimes we make it look so easy they have no clue what it takes to put together a board meeting. But just making sure the communication is there, and that's what it's about, okay? Making sure that they've got all the board dates on their calendars, make sure they've got all the materials that they need in a timely manner. Of course, a lot of the timeliness of things are based on statute, so we don't have any wiggle room there. but we do like to make sure that they have everything they need in order to present, as a board member representing Yavapai College, a good mechanism in which to conduct their meetings.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all this, Marilyn, because it gives me a greater understanding of the position that you've held and the responsibilities and the duties and how critical your position is to the smooth running of the board and the line of communication between the president and the board. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation. Well, you've been here long enough, Marilyn, that I imagine you've seen some changes in the different responsibilities that you had. Could you tell us a little bit, what do you think has brought about the biggest change in your job? Technology, personnel, or, you know, has there been a change in the focus of your position?
You know, I don't believe that there's been a change in the focus of the position, but I think what changes the responsibilities or the direction of my position is the individual that is hired in that president's position. So what I mean by that is I've actually gone or organized the presidential search for not only Dr. Wills but also Dr. Horton. And going through that process, first of all, is very time consuming in addition to your regular job. But you look at the presidents that I've worked under and the way they lead the college. And they're very unique in their own, just as they are as individuals. So if you look at Dr. Horton, I would say he's a visionary. He led the college when the economy was very good. He was directed by the community that when he was hired, the college was kind of coming out of a turmoil situation. And his responsibility was to bring the college trust level up to a certain degree, okay? With the finances of the economy, that was not a worry at that particular time. And so he did well in leading the college, and his vision was to look at education in a global manner. He spent time in Abu Dhabi, he spent time in various countries, and as a result of that, he also saw that there is a global education, whereas we're going to have students that don't always, they might get educated in the United States, but might want to get a job in one of the countries in Europe. So he thought differently. Okay, and he got involved differently. He got more involved at the state level. He got more involved with the legislature. So things like that. Dr. Wills, she leads on what I want to call a relationship-based lead. With that, what that I mean is that relationships mean a lot. Partnerships mean a lot. Working with the different colleges, working with the different community colleges around the state, getting involved with the economic development. Her focus is economic development. Times have changed since Dr. Horton has been here economic-wise. Mm-hmm. The finances are not what they were when Dr. Horton led this college. So what her focus is working with the cities, the towns, again with the state, ways in which we can educate our students and have jobs here for our students to stay here that will actually allow our community to grow. Right now, we can educate the students, but there are just not enough jobs in the areas where our students want to excel. And a lot of times people will wonder why we offer the various degrees that we do offer. Right now the focus is on technical skills, whether it's in mining or whether it's in flight or flight programs or things like that. We have to offer based on how the direction of job needs are occurring so we can educate our students whether they stay here or not. We can't control that. Sure, we'd like them to stay and make our community a better community, a more industrial community, but that takes more than just education. So I think a lot of my job responsibilities are based on the changes are who's at the helm. So
What the focus is
Yeah.
at that time. What's the greatest challenge you faced while you were here?
I believe when the college, the faculty, the staff voted a no confidence vote for the presidency at that time, and that took place in 2005, seeing that the atmosphere, the scariness, the fears, the knowing that a stance needed to be taken, did we want to go that route, what it would take to go the next step, all of that. The good piece about that is the fact that we are here today as a family, and we've learned a lot from it. Not ever saying, well, history will repeat itself, but on the other hand, I believe through that experience, like any bad experience, we've grown through it, we've learned from it, and we're moving forward. And I have to commend the staff, the faculty, that when something like that occurs, it's traumatic. And what I see today is the fact that they are retrusting the administration of this college. And they have done that through the interim presidency of Mike Murphy, Dr. Horton, and Dr. Wills. And that's a huge step, as you know, or I know, to take that huge step to trust the administration or trust someone again to know that it's going to all work out. So for them to put the history behind them and to move forward to make the college be a good institution, a good educational institution, I applaud the faculty and staff.
I do too. I've obviously been here 25 years, so I've seen a lot of things happen over that time. And I feel that the members of the college community, whatever their capacity is here, that we are all survivors in the sense that we want to move forward. We don't want to stay, in any sort of disruptive state as far as our functioning, that we want to pull together and move forward. And obviously there's been different personnel, different faculty members, different administrators over the years, but somehow there has always been this undercurrent that's been there, no matter who is here, that we want to be an institution that provides quality education to our students, and we're going to pull together and do what we can to make that happen.
That's exactly right.
So I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. And we're all going to experience change. I don't care whether it's in personnel, technology, whatever the case is. But unless you experience that change, are you going to grow? So do we like change? Probably for the most part, none of us really do, okay? But there are a lot of us that wouldn't want to be stagnant either.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, change makes us grow. Is it hard? Yes, okay. But it gets us that one step closer to make sure that we can provide, like you say, the best quality education for our students.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get it straight in my mind. Which college presidents have you worked under?
Dr. Horton and Dr. Wills. I did not work directly for the interim president, Dr. Mike Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
I worked indirectly with it.
Do you have any little interesting story you could tell us about either of those presidents, Dr. Horton or Dr. Wills? Observations, funny story, touching, anecdote, anything you'd like to share?
Oh, gosh.
Because you see them from a different perspective than the rest of us do.
I do. It's funny because I can, when the presidents are on the road, I'll give you a funny story with Dr. Horton. So I called him on the road. He was heading down to Phoenix for a meeting, and then he was going to spend the night, and then he had another morning meeting there, And so it's not unusual that I would be calling him and saying, it's a good time to talk, where you at, things like that, And so one time it was about 5 o'clock, he'd just finished his meeting, and so I gave him a jingle because I had to actually pass on a message to him. And so he was in a restaurant relaxing, and so I call him and say, is this a good time? He said, no, call me in the morning, we'll deal with it in the morning, Marilyn, no problem, It's been a long day, things like that. So I think Dr. Jim and myself had a good personal relationship in the sense that we could actually bounce things off of each other, okay? We knew when it wasn't a good time. And I think that with each president, you develop that personal relationship, knowing what each other's needs are. Mm-hmm. And as far as funny, I really can't think of a funny thing off the top of my head on Jim. But he was a professional at heart in the sense of always looking out for the next person, and I think that I find that same quality in Dr. Wills. She has a warm, and I've only worked for Dr. Wills for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. She has a warm, caring relationship. She wants to get to know you. She wants to be able to, when she passes you on the campus or even in the community, remember your name. When she came here, she had me set up every new hire that was ever hired at the college since she began a meet and greet. She said, Marilyn, from the on-site, if I can sit down and have a short conversation with every new person, then I will remember their names when I see them the next time. It's the way she remembers things. She also is very much into research in the sense of knowing the history, so that she does know how to, she's a good leader, she just leads in a different direction. Mm-hmm. So she's just a funny person, and she's a joy to work with. So
that's great to know. What's the biggest change you've seen at the college since you've been here?
The change in the faculty and staff, based on the fact of from the no confidence vote mm-hmm. to who we are today. It's that trust level. It's that moving forward level, and we're gonna do the best job we possibly can. The facilities, if you look at another big change has been on the Verde Valley campus. This last summer, we put a lot of money into that campus. They're moving forward with the Southwest Center up there. The foundation is raising funds. The biggest change, again, might be administration, personnel. Mm-hmm. Lots of changes there. But that's in every company. If a stint for a president is normally 5 years, and so that's normal, based on economic times. But it's been good. It's been a good ride.
That's great. One of the reasons that I wanted to interview you was because of your unique position that you've had, and you already referred to this, how you are the public interface, so to speak, between the public and the president. What skills have you had to employ to walk that fine, tightrope? And do you have any advice that you'd like to give others who'd be in a similar situation to you?
Well, first of all, I think that listening is number one key. When you're in the public, you don't always have to comment. A lot of people, if they know who you are and what your role is, they just want to vent. So the key thing is to listen. The reason being, in like any situation, there are always two sides of the story. And oftentimes, the public may not understand why the college is going the direction it's going. Or even if you're a board member, the college employees may not understand the direction that the board is going. So listening, I believe, is the key thing. And again, you don't always have to comment, okay? You can, or if you decide to comment on a controversial subject, you can say, well, I understand, or I understand where you're coming from, but you don't have to commit yourself, and I think that's very important. The other piece is, I think that it's important when you're in a position that I'm in, is the confidentiality. And that's a hard piece, a very hard piece to do, because you want to have a relationship with your peers. But sometimes in the position of this particular job, you would not want to share a lot of information about the college. I have a really good friend that works at the college, not in the president's office, but within one of the academic areas. And we very seldom talk about the college, because I would never want to jeopardize her by sharing anything that I say about the college, and all of a sudden she's put in an awkward position. So sometimes it's hard not to share some information with others, because you want to just have people listen to you. But you can't, because you can't control what other people might say if you share that information, and then it just escalates, and it's just not fair to the president nor the college. So that's, I guess, the listening skills and the confidentiality, and realize the importance of that confidentiality. I don't even share a lot of information with my husband. As a matter of fact, we talk business very, very little, because I wouldn't want to put him in that position, because if we're in a social situation, I wouldn't want him to say something that I've shared, okay, and somebody else takes it out of context. So I'm just real conscientious about that.
Well, your professionalism is outstanding, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Have you had to develop any leadership skills in your position?
Well, now you've caught my key point. I love leadership. I have been very much involved with Prescott area leadership. I love being an example of leadership. One of the hardest things in leadership that I've had to learn is actually, which is key to steward leadership, is to delegate. And what I mean by that is not just to give somebody a job, okay, but a true leader is one who allows someone else to learn, who allows someone else to take on the responsibility, who then allows someone else to put it in practice. And that's what a leader is. A lot of times, leaders feel they have to do it all themselves, and that's not the case. Or they feel if they just delegate, that's part of being a leader. No, you have to do that teaching tool, okay, in order for that person to be a true leader. So it's what you want to give to be a servant leader to someone else, so that he or she can become the best person he or she's able to be.
Well, that's words of wisdom.
Sure, but that is what Prescott area leadership is all about. We teach the leadership skills that allow people to use in their jobs, use in their families, wherever they may be, okay? And then also, within Prescott area leadership, we also talk to them about the issues that are happening around Yavapai County. And if they want to get involved, how to get involved with these different areas. A lot of times you'll find people who've lived in the community just like yourself. There's so many organizations out there that need your help, but you don't know about them. And when you bring some of the issues or some of the educational tools to a group of individuals that are interested in learning about them, it just blossoms. It's great. It's fantastic. So.
That sounds exciting. You touched on this earlier, organizing events.
Mm-hmm.
I always see you. If there's any kind of event going on around campus that well, I haven't seen you in sports events, but like you were talking about, you know, the holiday potluck and employee recognition. You are always there, and you are up on your feet, moving around and making sure people have what they need. It's quite impressive to have watched you. Do you have any stories to share about any of those activities? Things that maybe didn't go quite right? The caterer didn't bring the food, or just any other interesting story you'd like to share?
You know, I've never had that experience, and I think because of the fact that before the event, I always confirm everything, so that when I get there, there are no surprises. But I'm going to use the example of this last holiday potluck. The generosity of people from all over this college was just overwhelming. It was the best holiday potluck I have ever taken the lead on. And we had very little work to do with it. Sodexo, our caterer, they generously contributed the entire entree for the entire function. We had our bookstore offer some food. We had our repro people donate some food. We had a foundation decorate some, or give us some decorations for the table that they have used previously. All of those efforts came together, which made the event so little planning to have to do anymore. It was tremendous. And I guess no catastrophes, which is good. Now, if the caterer had catastrophes, I never really knew about it. I do remember one time their fountain for the punch didn't work or something like that, and so they had to go to plan 2. No big deal. So, but one of the things is that I approach situations whereas somebody comes to me with a problem. There's always a way to work that, okay? And you've got to look at, okay, you tell me you got a problem. What do you believe your options are? If you do this, what's going to happen? If you do that, what's going to happen? And you weigh it. Which one would you, as an individual, believe would work the best? And you're always going to have some decisions you make in life that you're going to wish you hadn't made them that way. I mean, even the president, I remember Dr. Horton telling me, well, you know, you went with what your gut said at the time. You made a decision. It didn't work out. And a true leader would say, not necessarily I made a mistake, but I learned from it. And we don't always make the best decisions. The only person that makes the best decisions is our Savior. But, so, I mean, it's just a growing experience. But the experience with the socials and all the other events that I plan, I think, again, just confirm everything at the last minute. Have fun. You know, for me, having fun is getting around to greet all the people that arrive there, you know. I could care less if I eat, you know, any of the food, but just that social atmosphere, working together with the committee members, you know, to make it all happen, making sure they get recognized for their efforts. People want to get recognized. They don't mind putting in the extra time or the effort, as long as they are recognized for their efforts. I think that means a lot.
I remember during the 40th anniversary party, event, dinner that was held before the performance in the, what was then called the Performance Hall. You were not feeling well. You were I don't know if you were sick to your stomach or what the situation was, but you came. You knew you weren't going to stay, but you came just to make sure that everything was going to run smoothly, and you were going to go home because it was obvious you weren't feeling well.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with that. I don't know that I would have had that commitment. So I thought that was very impressive for you to be there.
Shoot, thank you.
Okay, this question I've been asked to present to you.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, it's about your shoes. Okay, your shoes have been a signature accessory of yours on the job. And one of the staff members here would like to know, were your shoes a sort of daily affirmation for your work? What can you tell us about your shoes?
Well, I have to tell you, the brochure for my retirement was an eye-opener to me, because when I think of ladies' shoes, I think of Annie Goodell. Do you remember Annie?
Mm-hmm.
Annie had the high heels that were always like this. She always had the loops that went up the ankle area. She had every color of the rainbow with shoes. And I always think of, when I think of shoes, I think of Annie, okay? But the thing of it is that I'm a power walker. And so what happens is that people will see me walking around campus, and it doesn't make any difference if I have flats on or if I have heels on. I am constantly power walking. And so I think that, and occasionally I've been caught running down our hallway of Building 32 because either Dr. Wills needed something or I was late for a meeting. So the ladies in Building 32 were teasing me because when the position for my job came up, or the posting of it, they were teasing me and they were saying, well, you know, we're going to have these candidates wear heels and see how fast they can run up and down the hallway, and we're going to time you. So it's not necessarily the heels, I don't think, or the shoes. It's the fact that I can run or walk in anything. So the flyer was very, very much an eye-opener for me.
We don't always see ourselves as others do.
I know. That's exactly right.
Hey, it's a little opportunity for you to shine here. What personal accomplishments here have brought you the most pride or satisfaction?
You know, I think doing the best job, I believe in my heart, that I've been able to do.
What more can you do?
That's right.
You know, you have to have that feeling, or at least that's how I think. Imagine you do too, that I gave it my best shot.
Mm-hmm.
I did the best I could.
Yep.
With the abilities that I have.
That's right.
So.
And you know, the relationships and the friendships I've built here, they're unique. So it's good.
Yeah. Any thoughts on where you'd like to see the college 10 years from now?
Yes. Oh,
what
glad
would you like
asked
to see
that
us
one.
doing?
I'd like enrollment to double.
Wow, that's ambitious.
Yes. I would like to see enrollment double. I would like to see scholarship, the level of scholarships double. I think that it is not fair that students have to come out of college with the college debt. I would like to see the people who can afford it offer endowed scholarships in any way, shape, or form to allow for our next generation of students to lead this world in an educated manner. That's what I would like to see. Now, facility-wise, you're going to have to grow. Going to have to get a parking garage. We're already working on the residence halls, things like that. But I also see that the Performing Arts Center, under Dr. Yule's direction right now, is definitely right now the most successful PAC facility I believe Prescott has ever had. I don't believe that, I mean, Elks Theater, Opera House, I believe, you know, it's got a lot of history there.
Mm-hmm.
But the city would have to invest in a great leader to make that really come up to a standard of that Dr. Yule has actually made the PAC with the offerings. And I would believe in 10 years, if the PAC continues in this direction, as a matter of fact, Dr. Yule has a goal, in 7 years, he would like the PAC to be self-supporting. And that would be a huge achievement for this college and for the community. It says a lot to the community. But a lot of it is based on economics. How much people want to spend on enjoyment. And if they put that in their budget.
Well, I think too, Dr. Ewell and whoever he has working with him has certainly been offering a lot of different things at the Performing Arts Center, expanding the repertoire of what's presented there, and that's to be commended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope your predictions come true.
I hope so too.
Hey, is there anything you're going to miss about the college?
Oh, the people. It's as simple as that. You, Molly, everybody here at the college makes the college. And I'm proud of you.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before we close?
You know, I do have one closing statement, and I actually prepared this. And, you know, first of all, I'm extremely proud of Yavapai College and what Yavapai College stands for in the community. And I'm proud of the dedication of every employee here that makes Yavapai College what it is. And just keep up the great work.
Well, thank you. Well, I really appreciate you coming in to do this today. I realize that with it being your last day of work, that this may or may not have been the best time for you to do this interview, but I thank you very much for taking the time to answer these questions and just share what your work life has been here and your philosophy about the college. And thank you very much for doing this today.
Well, Molly, thank you. I'm really honored, and I'm glad I can be a part of the history of Yavapai College.
Well, you definitely have been.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.